Hello, everyone, and welcome into the program for voiceovervoices.biz. I'm your host, Earl Hall. This is the show where we talk to new and upcoming voiceover artists about their journey, about the gear that they're using, so that you can learn from all the mistakes that we've already made. I've got a very special guest today, one of my old students, just love so much. Storm Waters is with me. Storm, how are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing fabulous. My only complaint is you guys over anywhere other than the West Coast are way too early for me. This is like the crack of dawn over here on the West Coast.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. Well, look, Storm, I mean, first of all, congratulations. I know that you went full-time VO this January 2021, which is an amazing feat. Tell me how that feels to actually be a full-time VO, quit your old job, and now for the past, 6 months going on seven, this is what you do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Every day, I always like to fill my mind with positive thoughts, and it always, even before I quit the day job, it always involved this moment in time when I was a full-time successful voiceover artist, and it just occupied my wants and thoughts constantly. And for it now that I'm saying it now that it's actually happening, it's surreal. It's just wow. The best thing that I can think of is just it's actually happening. I'm actually doing it.
It's actually come to fruition with that. I mean, tell us a little bit about the journey here. How long have you been in VO? Like, when did you start this whole journey?
I started accidentally in 2013. everybody everybody has this story about people coming up and saying you have a wonderful voice, you should do voiceovers. No, 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 no. Didn't happen with me. It was never brought up to me. I didn't like the sound of my own voice when I first started. I was very typical, oh, I hate the sound of my voice. But it was accidentally. Was watching a YouTuber who plays let's play video games. He goes by the name Gopher, and he told all of his followers one day that there was this giant mod project that he wanted everybody to go help with, because they're remaking an old Elder Scrolls game in the new engine, and in order to be legal and above board, they have to remake everything, and it's a huge undertaking, and they need help, and I want to play this game. Go help them. So I was like, what the hell am I gonna do with this? Okay, so I looked, and they only had one maybe female voiceover artist at the time, and I thought, well, I did some theater in college, maybe. I don't know. So I reached out to them. I said, what do you guys need? And they said, okay, go buy a Samson Go Mic USB plug-in microphone. It's this big. It's literally this big. It's like the size of your finger. Uh, Go into your car, take your laptop in your car, and here, record a bunch of these lines.
Great acoustics in the car. I remember doing that myself.
Yeah, the car, so they had a good tip. The microphone not so much. It was okay for what we were doing at the time, but tiny USB mic this big, not so much now. So I upgraded from that real quick. But just the fact that they said, go get this $20 thing, plug it into your laptop, and go sit in the back of your car and record these lines. It's like, all right. Boot camp. So they said, here's like 100 characters, go record. They didn't even give me dialogue. They were at the time, they just said, here, just pull the character up off the wiki, and like there's some lines
Oh wow.
underneath, some dialogue lines. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. All right, so there you go.
Wow. So that was,
Hours.
that's an interesting start. That is a very
Oh.
interesting start to actually kind of start off with something like that. I mean, 2013, 2021 now, I know you've probably gone through a couple of different, iterations of like your gear. And like, that's like the thing that everyone wants to hear about. What gear are you using, with that? So let's start with the microphone. What microphone are you using, and why did you select the mic that you're using right now?
Well, funny you should mention, because it is still your TLM 103. This one right here. And it's funny because I had upgraded a couple of mics. I went from that teeny little USB mic to a slightly bigger USB mic, because I didn't understand the whole XLR connection interface thing. I didn't know at the time. And I upgraded once I did figure out about the XLR situation. I upgraded to a CAD E100S, and I liked it. I used it for quite a while, and I liked it. And I just hooked it up to a simple, I think it was a Scarlett Solo interface at the time. But as I was progressing, I kind of was, I wasn't sure if I was hearing like a muddiness in my midtones. So I was kind of getting the itch to try something, even though the Caddy 100S is a great microphone. It's, everybody who uses it swears by it, and I like it. I kind of had the itch to try something else, and everybody was talking about the 103, but I actually wanted to try the 102 first, because there's not a lot of comparisons that you can find with these mic shootouts with a female voice. And so I was trying to find one specifically for a female voice. And I'd heard some people complain that the 103 could sometimes be a little sibilant. So I wanted to try the 102 first. And it was a little bit less expensive, but I kind of wasn't worried about that. I was more focused on what was going to sound right for my voice. However, the shop that I wanted to try to rent mics from here locally, because everybody says go rent some microphones to see how they looked at me and they were like, oh, this is what we got. And they had like 3 microphones to pick from, and none of them were Neumann. So I was like,
Wow.
fine,
Wow.
fine, Bakersfield. Okay. So I came back, and I was kind of had my mind made up that I was going to buy a 102. And then you came along and were selling your 103. I was like, all right, I've got to keep it in the
Wow.
family.
Well, that
So
was,
here
I
I
mean,
am with the
at the time when I put that up, I was upgrading or changing to the Sennheiser MKH 416. And it's like, I don't need 2 mics. I just want one. So I got that, tested it out, loved it. I was like, okay, let's sell this at a reduced rate and see who'll take it. And you took it.
It's amazing how that works. I was in the market for something, and there it was. And I was like, well, I can't pass up a 103, especially from somebody who I trusted and listened to a lot. And I was like, this is perfect. So I've been using it ever since. And I do sometimes notice a sibilance when now that I know what to listen for. At the time, when you're first starting out, you don't know what to listen for. And you don't know, when somebody says you sound boxy, what does that even mean? Like, you don't know what to listen for, the tones, the hertz, frequency level, all that's Greek.
You don't know what to
So
roll off as far as the bass goes. You don't even know what frequency you're getting sibilance at. You just know it's there, and it's like eating at you because you don't know how to get rid of it.
yeah, and you kind of have to expand as you grow, and this stuff will come to you. You will learn to what you need to listen for as you grow and progress and get the upgraded gear. And then once you go back and listen to some of your old stuff, oh, that's what they were talking about. Oh, I hear it now. Because when you're first starting out, you don't know what to listen for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like now, I know if you're anything like me, which you are, it's like even when you're laying down your vocal track, you can automatically pick out breaths. You know exactly what a breath looks like. And it's so funny when, like, I have clients that came into the office and I was doing a VO and I was like, I'm just going to take out your breaths. And they were sitting there watching me and I was just delete, delete. They're like, how do you know that's a breath? And I'm like, I just visually know what that looks like. And they're like, how?
Yeah, I have I'm very clicky, the dreaded mouth noise thing. I'm very, very clicky. It's like I have chewed on bubble wrap. It's ridiculous. And I can see the tiny little, I know exactly where it's at in my waveform, and I know right where to heal. So
It's
I've given up. Yeah, I've given up trying to treat the click. I just know where it's at and I just heal it out. So
Man, well, I mean, so you've got the Norman TLM 103. So tell me about the interfaces that you're using before you get to your DAW. Like, what's in between the microphone and the DAW that you're using?
I try to keep it as simple as possible. And so
Mm,
when I first started, and I was learning the ropes, everybody was using the Scarlett Solo, and it's perfectly fine. I see a lot of professionals use it with the expensive microphones, and people love it. And I liked it for a while because it's very simple. It's just plug and play. There's nothing, from what I remember, there's not even anything on the computer itself that you have to download. It literally does just plug right in. And so it is great for, starting out until what else to look for. However, I ran into a problem where after a while I was noticing some static, intermittent static in my line, and it would come and go, and I could never trace down what it was. I had switched out cords. Everybody says check your cord, check your USB cord, check the XLR cable, check before
I
you
just
do
need
anything.
I just need this to work. What?
Yeah. So I was like, well, in my setup, I also at the time streamed every now and again. I would stream games because I like to do voiceovers for video games, and I would do a lot of mod work. And the games that I was on, or the games that my friends were on, I would stream for them so they could see their characters and that sort of thing. So I needed to be able to plug in two mics anyway. So I upgraded to the Audient ID 14, which has two. You can plug in two mics, and loved it. And it was also simple. It did have something on the computer that you could pull up and adjust on the computer too, but you didn't have to. And it was just about as simple as the Scarlett Solo, and had the two mic capability with it. But then I got the itch again to everybody was talking about the Apollo Twin, and I knew, I put it in the back of my mind. I put it on my wish list. I put it on my wish list in the back of my mind, and I wasn't going to worry about it because I was perfectly happy with the Audient. And I don't know what, it was a Christmas present to myself or something. I can't remember exactly, because the Apollo is not as user friendly
No,
for newcomers, and I
no.
knew that also. So that's why I kind of kept it in the back of my mind when I was ready, and I had somebody that I trusted that I could help get it set up, because there's plugins and all this other stuff with the Apollo that I knew I wasn't going to be able to do myself, and without some trusted source to help me, walk me
It's
through
a
it.
lot.
But
I mean, just to even dig into that, it is a lot setting that up. It is expensive.
mhm.
The plugins are expensive. Um, but doggone it, it's hard to learn. But once you have that thing set up,
Yeah,
it is so sweet.
yeah, and that's where I'm at right now, is again, Christmas present to myself, because I was doing really well at the time. It was right before I had quit my full-time job, and I was doing really well. I was like, wow, this is actually happening a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be honest. I was expecting probably another year in my job, my day job, um before I'd have to make the jump. But it got to where I was recording it, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep and then have to go to the day job. Ooh, that was rough. So I got
They've done
my,
that. And they've done that.
yeah. So I got my Apollo as my present to myself. And once I got that thing set up, and again, like I said, you don't know what to listen for if you don't have something to compare it to, and you haven't expanded and grown along with your setup. Because once I heard the playback of my first soundbite that I did with the Apollo, there was just something about it that I was like, ooh.
It's like you heard it and probably like, what the crap was I doing before?
Yeah, because I go back and I'll hear, my old files, if I have to go back and pull up an old file or something. And I hear things there now that I thought was just swell at the time. It was like, what? So yeah, until you have that comparison and know what to listen for, ignorance is kind of bliss. But now that now that I have, my forever setup, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, what you have right now, I mean, a lot of us are gearheads, right? So we go through gear every now and then, but with the setup that you have with the TLM 103, with the Apollo Twin, it's like, what else do you really need at this point as far as gear goes? Because that Apollo, I mean, it's literally a computer. I
Yeah.
mean, that's sitting on your, it's, oh gosh, and it's so beautiful. And once you have that thing set up, there's just nothing like it. Um, so let's get into your DAW. What are you using for your DAW?
Okay, again, went through kind of an iteration because, of course, you start off with Audacity because it's free. In the back of my car with with that little Samson Go mic, and not knowing what I was doing, Audacity was great because it was free and there was no subscription involved. Um, as I grew and kind of figured out a few more things that I needed to be able to do, the multi-track editing and everything, I upgraded to Reaper and love it because you just get the wave file in there and you can clip it or you can bring it back if you need to. It's really powerful for just $60 price point, and it was kind of a no-brainer to upgrade to. However, one thing made me upgrade again to Adobe Audition. You can probably guess what that was. With me and my clicky bubble wrap mouth,
My
auto
gosh,
heal,
auto
auto
heal.
heal. So now it's as much as I love Reaper, I do, and it's a great non-subscription based alternative for people to upgrade from Audacity to. That auto heal, man, is my life.
That is so amazing. I mean, it's, I know, my good buddy, one of my star students, Anthony Pica, and,
Yeah,
now seeing you having made the transition to go from having a full-time job, doing this part-time, now doing this exclusively full-time. Storm, what does that feel like? I know you said it was surreal. Um, and I remember for me, it took a minute for me to really get it that I didn't have to go back to work.
right.
It's like, but what does that genuinely feel like? And and what was the thing, the tipping point that made you make that decision? I'm done.
Um, well, the feeling is just, like I said, surreal. One, but then the other, like, even now, Sunday nights I still have trouble sleeping because Monday it's probably going to take a little while. When I quit the day job, I knew I was going to need to kind of detox from it, so I took a couple of weeks just to try to untangle myself from it. But I know it's gonna 15 years in that job and then another 5 years as a graphic designer before that is a long time and a lot of habits, ingrained habits to undo. And just in a few months, I still haven't quite got it yet. So it's I still kind of have to remind myself, oh, I'm my own boss now, my own schedule. And it's thrilling. It's like I said, surreal but thrilling too, because I get in here and I get somebody asking, hey, can you do a live session, or hey, can I get this today? Yes, you can. Okay.
Well, I
you
got to
know
go to
uh
work, or I'm going to have to
yeah,
call in sick, or I'm going to have,
when I had a very large one of my larger video game jobs, it's nothing union based yet. I'm baby steps, but it was probably my largest job to date. The script was like 700 pages, and it was one of my first four-figure jobs kind of thing. um and and it took quite a while. It was a character, so there's three, I did like three takes per line kind of thing, ABC take kind of thing. And I did actually have to try to get some kind of days off from the day job to get that thing done. And once I started having to take time off, and then a couple of times when I was up late recording the next day, I get migraines, and so that would trigger a migraine sometimes, and I'd have to call in. I was like, this is getting to the point where the day job was actually getting in the way of me being able to expand my business. And I knew that was the tipping point. Like you said, the tipping point was I was expecting to have to stay in that job for, another year or so. Um, and, the day job, towards the end, there was a lot of negativity and a lot of toxicity in that job that had started cropping up after, it was great the 15 years that I was there. But stuff was changing, and the tipping point came much more quickly because of that. But since I made a conscious decision to focus on the positivity of my job is expanding to the point where I cannot keep up. um it's I chose to focus on the positive parts I'm doing this for my job, not because this job sucks. So that was the conscious decision I think you need to make if you're in that kind of a position. And I think we all are all kind of there once we get that itch to expand ourselves and work for ourselves, and this is what we want to do. What's holding us back can irritate us, can frustrate us, can cause a lot of, like, can weigh you down a lot. And you've got to just let that part go to the point where, okay, there's something here that I need to learn, I think, before I jump off, or there's something I need to do first before I can jump off. So once you just kind of relax, and I had to do this myself, I just kind of had to relax into it. Obviously, there was something else that I needed to do, something else that I needed to learn before I jump off, something needed to happen. So, relax into that. Don't stress yourself out at the day job because it's taking up time from what you want to do. And it was hard to do, but I had to finally do it. And then all of a sudden, bam, it slapped me in the face. I said, I got to quit this job because of good things that were happening. It was the next logical step. Instead of, this sucks, I hate it, I quit. Instead of that negativity, it was a positive jumping point. Like, wow, this needs to happen now. This is fantastic. So instead of doing it for a negative reason, you do it for a positive reason. And then the jumping point just becomes so much more thrilling.
And I remember back when, because we came into each other's ecosystem probably somewhere back in around what, 2015, 2016, 17, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I want to say it's 16, 17, something like that. Yeah.
And I know you've always been interested in the whole thing with character voices, the video games. You were like, that's just what you wanted to do. And I remember you asking me the question, how do you break into the video game market? Storm, how does one break into the video game market?
there's not really a breaking in. There's not a breaking into any of this. It's just been a slow progression of steps. And when I very first started off with that little modding community, you're going to do some of that stuff for free or for very little, because that community, one, to be legal, they can't charge for their work, to practice and get your feet wet in that. There was a little casting call club that's actually gotten a little bit better now since the first time I started using it. There's a lot of passion projects on there to practice with, or to work with these people who are low budget, no budget kind of thing. Work with them to practice your acting chops. Now, a lot of people will say take acting classes. I was in theater, in college, but take your acting classes, take your improv classes. But that is also working with other people who are kind of working on passion projects too. Was the way I did it. And everybody is going to have a different path to that. There may be some person who finds something and breaks in, maybe, but that's like that's not the norm. And so the rest of us will have to work at it one step at a time. It's like growing with your gear. You're going to work on those passion projects first in the back of your car. And then, and then some of these passion projects will be able to pay a little bit. And then, the more classes you take, I've also worked with people who are specifically, very popular in video games and characters. So I worked with Dave Fenoy and Everett Oliver and Aaron Fitzgerald. And, I pick people who are specifically targeted in that area that I want to work in, the video games character area. And you pick people who are very specific and very popular and successful in that field, and you work with them. And that's like I said, it's just a series of steps. Yeah.
And there is no direct path, right? It's like, it's all over the place. But if you keep following the little crumbs, you'll get there, especially with something as big as video games go. Storm, one of the last questions I want to ask, and I always ask everyone as a final question, and I already know where we're going because I saw what you wrote. So this is going to be a real good conversation here. If there was one thing you could ask me about voiceover, what would that be?
Okay. And you know me, because we've worked together before, I don't tend to ask a lot of direct questions. I like to be the silent observer. I will
Mhm.
lurk and I will listen and I will soak in like a sponge. And that's kind of what
Yeah.
I would suggest to everybody. Be a sponge, watch things happen. You'll start to pick out people who are, it's kind of like chess, who are like one step ahead. And there are some things that you have always struck me as being one step ahead in, because
Wow.
you think ahead and the direction that markets are going and things are going. And it kind of happened with like the fiber thing. You were big into saying this is the direction that people are going to go. uh
Mhm.
the hive mind here lately, especially with the Bev versus TikTok situation, has been going towards, oh my God, AI is going to replace us all and we're all going to be out of work. Now, I, being the silent observer that I am, I'm not ready to jump off of a cliff yet, because AI is just never going to have that humanity that people are looking for. I'm not worried about that. However, trying to be one step ahead of the game, I know there are ways to embrace this change that's coming and to make it work for you and to take advantage of it instead of letting it take advantage of you. This whole AI situation. So, you being one step ahead kind of guy, that would be the question that I would ask you. How are you preparing for the inevitability of AI? Um, what do you think you can do to take it, grab it, and make it work for you instead of like being chased out of your job?
Here's the thing with this: my grandson's here crying in the background. But so I'm
Sounds
hearing him screaming down.
unhappy.
Yeah, somebody's doing something to him downstairs. But here's the thing with the whole AI thing, right? First, all the AI that you hear today still sounds like AI.
Hmm.
It still sounds like it, right? Now, if you compare that to the rigmarole that I was bringing up with the whole thing with Fiverr, 4 or 5 years ago, the $5 gigs and doing $5 jobs and things of that nature. AI to me is like the $5 gig. It's You're always going to have those people that just they're going to go buy it. They're just going to go buy it. But when you're talking about a real human voice, like I look at how AI works in regards to, okay, this is the sentence I want you to say, or this is the paragraph that I want you to say, and this is the style that I want you to say it in. Well, what if the first paragraph is high energy and the second paragraph is real low, and how do you start programming that stuff in so that it actually sounds natural and a natural progression? There are things that as human beings we can do that a computer, I don't care what it is, just cannot do. Maybe by the time we get to the 2200s, it might be a little bit different. But today and within our lifespan, there are just things that computer generated voices are not, and the nuances of a human voice they can emulate, but you still detect and you still hear it sound like a machine,
Hmm.
not a real human. Even what I just said, you can still hear it and it sounds like a machine, not a real human. That inflection of that one sentence, AI can't do that. It's all it can do is read what's there. That's it. And try and make it sound as close to a human as possible. But we are the greatest invention ever created, period. And nothing will ever outdo us. So, will it be competition? Yes, but it's going to be that competition on the level of the $5 gigs as opposed to professional VO that's doing it at an accurate rate. That's how I see the whole thing with AI in my lifetime.
Right.
Make sense?
And yeah, and I totally agree that there's just no replacing humanity and the nuanced
Mm-hmm.
things that a voice can do and an emotion can do to a voice. And
Yeah.
especially somebody was mentioning that they were talking with a company, an e-learning company. So AI is going to replace me here pretty soon, huh? And, being kind of cheeky. Um, and their response was no, because their topic matter was so important that the droning of an AI voice is what it boiled down to. Was kind of paraphrasing, the boiled down to the droning of an AI voice would not hold a person's attention enough, and their subject matter was important enough that involved, serious ramifications if somebody screwed something up, that a human voice needs to hold somebody's attention. And this droning AI voice is not going to do it. It's not going to connect with the listener
Yeah.
and accomplish this and keep somebody's attention, and espouse the seriousness of the subject matter. It's all number of reasons. But I'm looking forward to, if somebody is planning on trying to digitize my voice and try to make money off of my voice. No, I want to be the one to do that. And there's some people who are thinking real seriously about how, taking the bull by the horns, basically, and digitizing their own voice so that they can do that themselves. There will still be a person behind it for the important stuff that needs the human emotion, especially for character work. Come on, you're going to get an AI to do character work? That I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
But to be
Unless
the one
playing a character like a Data or something off of Star Trek or something like that with no emotion, no real inflection or something like that, because it is a robot or whatever.
And that's the thing too. Even a couple of the characters that I've done have been robots with personality. Like there's still a certain hint, like touch of personality that a human doing a robotic voice also.
Yeah.
I mean, it's silly. One of my that
lot of
large
that
job was a little robot.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, you see a lot of that in anime,
Yeah.
With that as well. So yeah. But man, well, Storm, first of all, I want to thank you so much for taking this time out. I think this is the longest interview I've done today. But
So sorry.
No. This was really good, really powerful. And I really wanted to get into some of the stuff that you've gone through, because obviously you made it. It's like, that's a big deal. And I think it's good for people to see that you started off at a certain point and just recently went full time. And I'm sure you remember me saying years ago, and I think some people were kind of shocked at it. I'm like, look, if you're not willing to put the next 1 to 3 years into this, quit today. Do you remember me saying stuff like that to people?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what you did. You put in that 1 to 3 years. Now it's all in the past. Now it's just moving forward.
And when it happened quick. It was like waiting, and all of a sudden, oh crap, there it is. Like it just the snowball happened, and it went way quicker than I thought it was going to towards the end, once it hit that logical step. So if people are, that picture that I think you had posted it too at some point. Everybody posts this picture of these two people who are digging for diamonds. Yeah, and one guy quits this close, this close to his diamond. It's like that, because if you quit one day, like the next day could have been the turning point.
Right. Well, Storm, you didn't quit. You grind and did not quit. So the whole grind and don't quit thing, you did it. And I'm so proud of you and so appreciative of your time to come in and just share your story, with us. I think it's so valuable, and many people are going to get a lot out of this. And I'm sure we'll be in touch again soon. But thank you so much for being here with me today and helping me realize my vision for voiceovervoices.biz. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.